G'day everyone, welcome back to the channel. This video is on how I found freedom after escaping the corporate rat race. I used to be a management consultant in London for a boutique consultancy. I was really unhappy in the job. I ended up transitioning to doing a PhD and that didn't last, and I've ended up becoming a business owner with a series of failed ventures and then a series of quite okay ventures, and now I feel like I've got my freedom. I'm recording this completely alone, off grid, and looking at the most incredible sunset right now. It's just, absolutely amazing. I'm in the Atherton Tablelands area in far north Queensland in Australia. I live in Singapore where I run my businesses, and I come to Australia regularly for camping, to visit my family, and I just love this lifestyle of still working wherever I go. I've got the Starlink satellite here, just going off totally alone, sometimes in a city surrounded by lots of people. So I want to share a few perspectives that I've developed along the way about finding freedom, about the corporate rat race, and just share them with you here. But before I do that, I just want to take note that what I'm going to share with you now isn't for everyone, and I don't think it should be for everyone. I think we've all got to find our own pathway. And for many people, the corporate life, the corporate rat race is not really a rat race at all. It's something they really enjoy. Having a secure income, very clear progression ladder, very fulfilling relationships from people in the workplace. That's a really good path for a lot of people. People can be really happy with that. So if that's you, please know that I really do respect the path that you're taking. It's just that it's not for me, and I'm really happy to have gotten off that path. So I want to share a few ideas, ways of thinking that might be useful for some people that are in the corporate rat race, that are feeling like it's a rat race, and that just want to transition into something a bit different. The first one is the illusion of security. And I know this as a business owner that employs a team of people. And I'm sorry if you're one of the team members watching this right now, but you do feel like when you work for someone else that you've got a lot more security because the business is there, it's taken care of. But the reality is that a lot of businesses go under. A lot of businesses during a financial crisis will go through a period of downsizing. Even if a business is growing, they're still going to restructure and go for different opportunities. And unfortunately, your job is never really that safe. I know this as a business owner because we're always looking at the bottom line, and we're always trying to open up new revenue streams, and we're really doing our best to get that happening, but sometimes things are topsy-turvy. And the reality is that when we employ people, we try to keep everyone in their jobs for as long as possible, but things do change. And that's just the way that business is. So even though you might have a secured job, you're in that corporate rat race and you feel like you've got that security, the reality is nothing is ever fundamentally secure. The next perspective is that time is the ultimate currency. So when you work for someone else, your time is dictated by someone else. It's dictated by a manager, by the systems or the processes of the company. You need to be at a certain place all of the time. And time is limited. And when you're spending your time based on what someone else wants you to do, then you're not really in control of what's happening in your own life. So if you're in the corporate rat race, your time is not your own. You're doing what other people want you to do. The next one is that freedom doesn't mean doing less. I think a lot of people in the corporate rat race love being busy, and having a set structure and routine, going to work all the time, is something that gives people a lot of satisfaction. And the idea of quitting that and going in a different direction is horrifying for a lot of people. The reality is that this life of freedom doesn't mean sitting around doing nothing all the time. You can be a highly creative person working on a whole range of different projects, even when you're going down that path of having a life of freedom. I know in my own case, having a few different businesses and working on them with people I really enjoy working with We're always coming up with new ideas. We're always trying to move things forward. We're always facing challenges, and we're super busy. And I just love being busy, but I'm busy in a way where I'm in control of my time, in control of my output, and choosing this path of freedom hasn't meant giving up all this busyness. It's actually meant probably being way more busy at the moment. I mean, even being here where I am right now, I've taken the time to drive to this pretty remote location, but I did open the laptop and really catch up with a few different things while still taking the chance to really enjoy where I am, which I still want to show you. The sun has gone down so you can see a different kind of contrast to it. Whoa. Actually pretty happy I can share it with you while creating this video. The next perspective for me was around who I'm actually working for when I'm working for a corporation. And are these the people that I really want to give all of my creative output to? So the reality is that if you're working for a corporation, you're working for shareholders that don't give two hoots about your own welfare, about your own creativity, about you living a good life. All they care about is output, and they're going to try to squeeze you for all of the output that you've got based on the laws and regulations that are in place, where some countries might uphold a 40-hour working week or not having emails sent to you over weekends. So you'll have a HR manager that's doing their best to try to look after you and make sure you're living a good life. But it's always within this system, within these laws and regulations of a society. But there's so much pressure coming from the shareholders, the owners of the business, that just want to increase the output so they can increase their profit, and they really don't care about who's actually doing the work. And for me, that's a really demoralizing feeling to know that if I'm working in a corporation, I'm really helping these people get richer, and there's just not much connection between me and them, and that's a really demoralizing feeling for me. The next perspective for me is around my creative output itself. And I feel like when you work in a corporation, you're working for this huge machine where you are one little piece of that. And that's what's happened to our corporations. They've gotten so big, and you fulfill one little part. And very often, unless you're right at the top of senior management, which is a really hard place to get to, where you've got to be a certain kind of person to get there, which I don't think would be such an enjoyable experience to really climb the ladder in that way, but maybe that's for you, who knows. But if you're lower or mid-range in the corporation, you're not seeing the end output of what you're putting in. And for me, that's quite an isolating feeling. So since getting off this corporate rat race and starting to work on my own businesses and tinkering on all these different things, I can see end to end the whole thing that I'm trying to create. And it's a really challenging path to be on, and there's lots of failures along the way. But I can see it, I can feel it, I can visualize the whole thing. But when I'm in a corporation, I'm just doing one little piece, and I just try to get my job done to fulfill my manager's expectations. Then that's done, then my weekend comes, and you don't really feel connected to your creative output. I think the next perspective that really helped me was around defining my own terms on what success means. So when I was working in a corporation, I felt like everything was about role titles and certain levels of responsibility and being able to manage other people and being able to have that trust in me from the corporation. And then I'd get a pay raise, which would be, pretty insignificant in the grand scheme of things. You'd get a little pay rise, which might have a bit of an impact, but it doesn't really get you to the places that you really want to get to. At least that was my feeling when I was working in a corporation. And I had to get off that hamster wheel and start to think about what success really felt like for me. And when I shifted the path, I actually made a lot less money, but I felt more successful because I was connected to the output. I was connected to my creativity. I was actually doing something where I was nurturing my own independence. So for me, that made me feel a lot more successful. I felt like I was owning my own destiny. And I think that giving up on ideas of success that are coming from other people that are coming from the corporation itself, where they're really conditioning you to just work for the machine, to work yourself to the bone for someone else. Having that different vision of success, I think, was a really essential thing for me to quit the corporate rat race and go on this very alternative and very different path. So this is the final one I want to share, because it's getting bloody cold out here. But the most important perspective shift for me in finding freedom was on giving up on shaping my life based on the expectations of others. So it's related to the one before, where when I was in the corporate world, I was caring so much what my managers thought of me. It was a toxic way to live my life. I was really disconnected from this deeper feeling within, on trying to live my own destiny and be my own greatest ally. I was always worrying what other people thought of me. And I think that when you work in a really big company like that, you just can't help but always worry what other people think. So for me, shifting path and living this life of freedom, it was very much about setting my own expectations, on rethinking what those expectations are, on living life on my own terms. So wherever you are in life, whatever you're doing, whether you work in a corporation or not, I hope that these ideas have been helpful to you. If you've enjoyed this video, then please do subscribe to the channel. I'm going to start sharing more of these videos, more of these thoughts on what's going on the journeys that's actually happening. And please share your thoughts below. I'd love to get to know you in the comments on what you think of the corporate rat race.